Hey y'all. So as you can see, we got a couple of things out on the counter right now because I still have to do a chicken and broccoli, picadillo beef, and the pepper steak. So I'm gonna do my beef stuff first because some of that needs to be marinated and stuff like that, and it's not necessarily a quick cook. And it's similar ingredient prep for both of those. So I have a pound of 85 15 ground beef, and then a nice pound of shaved beef steak. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start with marinating the beef steak for the pepper steak so that gets some flavor imparted into it because that's gonna be a flash cook. We wanna make sure there's enough flavor in it so it's just not cooked and bland. So we're gonna open this up real quick. Some nice thinly shaved steak. So as we cook this, it's gonna get nice and brown, and then with the peppers and everything, it's gonna be great. So we're gonna pull this apart. Make sure it's all separated and good, and put it right in this bowl. Right there. Now, as I said before, I used all that garlic yesterday, so I'm going to chop up some more garlic now. Make sure if you're going between like meat and vegetables or anything you have to reuse, that you wash your hands in between, even if you're cooking for yourself, because you don't want to get yourself sick with cross-contamination. I was watching another video from another, not influencer's not the word I want to use, creator, and he made a valid point. Even if you are cooking for yourself, you don't want to get yourself sick. It's not something you just have to do in restaurants. Even though it is home cooking, you still need to take safety precautions to take care of yourself and your family if you're cooking for your family. So I'm going to pop off 4 cloves of garlic right there. We'll leave the rest of this to the side because I may need it later. Just like I said before, get your skin off. So you have the nice whole cloves. Now for this, I actually want the fine mince I was talking about yesterday. So I'm going to show a different method for that today. That's kind of like, if you're not worried about what the stuff looks like and it's just going to cook down the food, you can do it this way. And it will save you some time because it's not really meant to be pretty pieces of garlic. So you're just going to peel it. However, if it breaks, it breaks. Whatever, what have you. Just make sure you get all the skin off. And you can see I'm not being very cautious about this. I'm just like twisting and pulling and twisting and pulling because it's all going to get broken down anyway. Just want to make sure all the skin is off. And make sure you get all the skin off your cutting board because what you're going to do next is a little labor intensive and you need the cutting board as part of your process. So you don't want any of that skin chopped up in the garlic. La, la, la. Also, you notice I took the music out of the background because I realized that for the future of what I plan on doing, I need to figure out how to put music on that's not copywritten. So, just like I said yesterday before, with the back of the knife, you could do the smash technique to smash it, but this time you're going to use a lot more pressure and get it to where the garlic is like that. It's just completely flat. Then you're just going to roughly chop and keep chopping till it's like little tiny pieces. Pull your knife over it, get all of it back together, and just keep chopping. Then you should have like these little particles. Grab a bowl, get all your garlic in. Same thing with the rest of it. This is weird doing without music. It's so strange. So I'm so used to cooking with music, kind of sets the mood and infuses a little bit into the food. But internet is the internet, and people have the rights to their intellectual property, so I want to be respectful of that because I would want the same. Chop, 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 chop. Now, interesting fact. I did not grow up using a lot of fresh garlic. It was a lot of garlic powder and like seasonings like adobo and stuff like that, or like seasoning salt and things of that nature. It was just not something my mother had in the house. And I started using a lot more fresh garlic when I got to culinary school. It's probably one of my favorite ingredients to cook with, just because not only the health benefits, but I love the flavor, which people find amusing given my fascination with vampires and me having this affinity for garlic. And obviously vampires and garlic are not usually friendly bedfellows, but that's just me. So now, this is our 4 cloves of garlic, and this is going to be for the marinade for the pepper steak. That's my alarm telling me I need to get up and do this video. So now, get some soy sauce. I use the full flavored soy sauce. You can use low sodium if you have any health issues or anything like that. But you're going to add about, I don't measure anything per se, but you can add some soy sauce. Make sure the garlic is completely covered. You can get some honey. Pour that over. Now, 2 sets of chopsticks. One is going to be for mixing and one is going to be for cooking. So this one I'm just going to stir everything around. Make sure everything is down in there. And we're going to let this sit to the side for a minute. Now, make sure you move your knife so you don't cut yourself. We'll pull our beef back down. We're going to season the beef with our dry ingredients. My throat is really dry because I just woke up. So, my rainbow peppercorn in the grinder, fresh ground. Always better to have it fresh ground, just because you can control the texture on some of these, like either coarse or fine. It also just tastes better. Bit of that. White pepper. Be generous with that because you want everything to have a nice, good flavor. Ooh, excuse me. Like that. Here we go. A little bit of turmeric. And some paprika. Hold on, underneath the lid for this bowl. Yeah, perfect. Okay. Now, take the little stirry chopsticks, stir this around to make sure everything is coated. Now, I like doing these bowls with the lid for this reason. I can put the lid on and shake the shit out of it to get it marinated. So now we're going to pour this little marinade on top of it. Again, it's not a lot, but it's a lot of full flavored things. And we're just going to let this sit in this marinade. So now what we're going to do, make sure you get all the steak off your chopsticks. Put this lid on, it's a nice airtight lid. And shake. Now, once we do this part, we're going to put this in the refrigerator and let this set till we're ready to cook it. And we're going to start on the picadillo beef. Okay, so now we're going to start on the stuff we need for our picadillo beef. So we got our ground beef, got our peppers. The white onions are going to be for the pepper steak. We'll put that back in the refrigerator. Excuse me. Wash your hands. With everything going on, even before all the COVID-19 stuff, make sure you wash your hands regularly when you're cooking, just to make sure you're not giving yourself anything, you're not passing anything along, because just outside of the stuff that you already have, a lot of the meat and seafood and chicken and stuff has extra stuff you may not notice or be paying attention to or be prepared for. Now, got the peppers, the red onions. I got extra red onions and peppers just in case, but specifically for this picadillo beef, I need olives. The last time I made this and posted a picture of it, one of my friends from culinary school kind of clocked that there were no olives in my picadillo, and it wasn't necessarily that there were no olives. I used green olives and I chopped them up really finely and just blended in with everything. So now I'm going to use the traditional black olives. Normally you would just buy a jar of these in the rings. I wasn't paying attention when I ordered them, and they're just the whole ones. So I'm just going to slice them into little rings, just like you would get normally when you buy them. The other thing I don't like about these is they're not in that much liquid, so they don't have like that softness that you would normally get when you get them out of the jar. So we have to cook this down just a little bit more in the cooking process, but that's fine with the meat and everything else. It should be perfect. So this is traditionally like a Spanish Latin style of cooking ground meat. I use ground beef. Funny enough, I told a friend of mine what I was doing for my video today. He said he did a picadillo ground turkey yesterday, which sounds good. I don't like ground turkey. I just never have. Sorry, y'all, but not my gig. But it's a nice little simple thing. It has a lot of different applications. You can use it for burritos, tacos, over rice, with pasta, over potatoes, and it's almost like a meat sauce as much as it is like a meat protein dish. I am not going overboard with this because, again, this is all for almost like a meal preppy purpose, not so much for the super healthy aspects, obviously, because you can see when I'm cooking, but more for the controlling my finances a little bit more, because I've noticed I've saved a lot more money buying food and cooking myself than ordering pre-prepared food and having it delivered and paying for all of that. And it's also something I have more control over: the flavor profile, the taste, and to a certain extent the nutritional value, because it's all from scratch. Almost everything I make is completely from scratch, except for like mustards and things. Although I do know how to make mustard. So I'm going to use 2 of these little cups of these olives. And the reason why I use these is I like the freshness of these better than getting a jar of olives that you end up opening and then you have to figure out how long you can keep them before they go bad. Obviously olives don't go very bad because they're like a preserved thing, but not everything needs to have olives in it. I'm going to keep cutting these up. I specifically didn't do these in the prep video because this was something specifically for this dish. So I wanted to do it when I did this so I didn't have it just sitting there waiting. And yeah. It's weird trying to do this without people in front of me or without music, because I'm just literally in my apartment silent and trying to fill in the dead air so you don't just hear knife slices or whatever's going on in my neighborhood. So I'm going to do this last one, and that should be enough for the moment. Then we'll go ahead and start getting our beef seasoned and put together. So we're going to do that and leave the rest of this over here. So this is a pound of 85-15 ground beef. The 85-15 is the lean to fat content with the meat. They always do that so you know what to expect. If you're health conscious, you want obviously a higher lean content, or depending on what you're making, you want a higher fat content for moisture purposes. I usually get this, or like a 75-25 depending on my mood. But this is normally the one I've gotten. I've been using Instacart recently for a lot of my grocery shopping. I get a lot of the same items on repeat. So now we're going to season this with a little bit of black pepper. Again, I love these little ones that come in the grinders. Now, this one is a single-use grinder, whereas the other one I have, I can take it off and refill it. So this just twists off and you can see the whole peppercorns, and then you put the lid on and it grinds it. Also, what I'm probably going to do once this gets down a little bit, I'm going to put in the large coarse salt with this so I can grind salt and pepper together, because I think that's really cool and convenient. White pepper. Oregano. I don't keep the spices out just because I don't have a lot of room on the counter. It's easier for me to just reach up because the cabinet's right here. A little bit of red pepper flake. So I learned an important lesson with this one. It doesn't have the holes. It just has a big hole, so I have to be careful when I pour it out. I pour it out too much. Some basil. And this is her. Yep. Marjoram. So this is going to be very, very herbaceous, because once this cooks down, I want this to have as much flavor as possible. So as the moisture releases from everything else, it will rehydrate and pull flavor from all the dry herbs. So now I have balsamic vinegar. And then, now I know I am at home, but I don't like the process of like grabbing wet ground meat. Where did I put the, oh, they're up here. So, I'm going to put on a glove. I have these lovely gloves because this will also eliminate me needing to wash my hands so much. And I'm just going to massage all of that into the ground beef. So we're just going to pull it apart like this and just get in there. Now, for the picadillo beef, you want everything cut up and it's going to blend with the beef. That's why, like I said before, I have the diced peppers and the diced onions and stuff like that. So, we're just going to leave the beef right here for a moment. Put the lid on just to keep that together. Put the olives on the top of there. Throw this glove out. Yeah. Orange pepper, red pepper, yellow, red onion. A little bit more garlic. So this, we're going to do the same thing we did before. Nice little quick rough chop. I'm going to use these parts from the middle just because they're bigger pieces. So peel. Again, this is something that's going to be mushed up and mashed together, so you don't need it to be pretty. But you still want to make sure you get enough surface area so it gets cooked. Because the one of the most awkward tastes in the world is to bite into a piece of raw garlic if you're not prepared for it. It will literally like ruin your day and ruin your meal because there's a bitterness to it that's not really pleasant. Da, 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 da. Throw that away. Get these last two little ones. I'm still here. So like I said before, smash, chop. Smash, and chop. So, into a little bowl. The large pot I use for jambalaya, same thing. I use that to cook a lot of things in because I look like the volume it holds. Now we're going to grab our olive oil. Oh wait, I used the rest of it yesterday, so I have a new bottle. I did not get a big bottle like before. Nice little simple small bottle of olive oil. Open! There we go. Enough to coat most of the bottom of the pan because there's a lot of liquid that's going to cook out of this, so you don't have to worry too much about anything burning or sticking to the bottom of the pan. Medium-high heat. And these longer, more durable chopsticks are the ones I use for cooking purposes. You can tell because you can see little burn marks on them. But I like because I can sit there and stir and pull things apart with them. You'll notice my cooking doesn't have a traditional cultural significance as far as where it comes from. For the most part, there's a lot of Southern influence with what I cook, but the techniques I use are all over the place. So, for example, using a wok or using chopsticks or some of the like classical French techniques I learned in school, which, ironically enough, that's the only class I failed. So when we come back after the pan's heated up, we'll start with the cooking. Okay, our oil's hot and popping. We move that around a little bit. Try not to spill your oil because oil is flammable when we start a fire, but whatever. I mixed all the peppers and onions that I want to use for this into one bowl so I can just put them in all together. Grab some chopsticks. Woo! Chop. Always remember oil and water don't mix, so putting anything moist into oil, be very, very careful so you don't hurt yourself. Get all of this out. I'm going to stir this around. And as this is stirring, grab that beef that we already seasoned. And just drop that right in there. Make sure you get all of it out. And stir. Now all we want to do for this, and this is actually a very simple recipe, is get this browned up. And then we'll add the rest of the stuff we need to finish it. And this one's a quick and easy one. This is not overly complicated. Kind of tedious, but it will come out good. Okay. So now that you see the beef is starting to get a little brown and the vegetables are getting soft, turn this up to high heat. And now we're going to add our salt. You'll notice I did not add any salt in the beginning because we're going to be adding the olives, which are preserved and salty enough, so we don't want to overdo it. So just a little bit of the coarse sea salt. And our olives. Mix that around. And then we're going to add our final ingredient before we put the lid on this baby. Our lovely tomato paste. Now, I like using this tomato paste. I know most people probably grew up using like the cans and stuff, but I like using the tube because you don't have an inclination to use a lot of it, and you're not forced to use a lot of it because you just put the top on and put it back in the refrigerator. So we're going to mix this around. And just let this cook. Now, mix this around so you make sure all the tomato paste is broken up and distributed. Ah, I dropped an olive. I'm home, so I can do this. I wouldn't do this in a restaurant, though. Come here. It's also the reason why I line my stove top with aluminum foil to catch everything, to make things easier to clean, since I have to clean all this myself. Right, get our lid. I always re-rinse lids before I put them on, especially if they've just been sitting out, because you never know, dust and whatnot. Put the lid on this, and then we're going to just drop it down to medium heat and let it simmer. Because we want everything to cook and still be juicy and have a lot of moisture left in it while we're doing it. And I have some extra onions just in case I want to throw some in the process. But we're going to let that cook, and then we're going to come back for the finished product. Okay, so we're almost done. All the beef has been browned out and stuff. The only thing we're going to do next is, where is it? Add a little bit of beef broth, just because you want to make sure you don't have any big chunks, because in case you decide to roll this in a burrito or serve it over rice, so you want to make sure everything's as smooth and palatable as possible. Put it on a spoon or a fork, and just a pinch more salt. And stir that around and let that cook. And you want to bring down the heat to a low simmer so that it can cook slowly and you build up a little bit more of the flavor over time. I am not doing a lot of the full finished products, because all of this is going into meal prep containers, which is not really appealing visually. At some point when I do like a quick meal, I'll do one where I can show you a full plated presentation on something. So I know that's what a lot of people want to see when they see a finished product. But all this is going to go into a container anyway, and that's not really that interesting. So this is the picadillo beef. Now, I'm going to do a very interesting video next that y'all are going to think is real cute.